Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at the Bellevue Arts Museum with this, well, it was rainy, but now it's sunny again. Classic Washington spring, I guess. I'm Carl Gellick. I'm the Director of Education here at BAM, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Preston Wadley. Preston is a long-standing artist based here in Seattle, producing works in photography, sculpture, and mixed media. He is also a beloved local arts educator, a professor emeritus at the Fine Arts at Cornish College. The Bellevue Art Museum is proud to be hosting a wonderful solo exhibition of Preston's work titled Preston Wadley, Abstract Truth on our second floor galleries. This exhibition and our presentation today is made possible by our generous donors and members of the Bellevue Arts Museum, as well as by our exhibition sponsors, Microsoft for Culture, Laura Dillaway, Arts Washington, the City of Bellevue, Cathay Bank, Arts Fund, KCTS 9, and the Seattle Times. Abstract Truth is an exhibition that encompasses a number of Preston's works from over the past 2 decades, works that engage themes of lived personal experience, memory, and our constantly changing relationship with the historical past. Preston is here to talk more about these conceptually fascinating and visually stunning works of art, and there will also be some time after his talk today for some question and answer. So without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming Preston Wadley.
Thanks, Carl. Can you guys hear me okay? Everybody in the back, okay. Wow, this is a great crowd. Thanks for coming. I get lots of questions about how these things work, where they get ideas from. And
I can't hear you good.
We can't hear too well.
Yeah.
okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Can you hear that?
A little bit more.
A little bit more. A little bit closer, maybe.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I don't think it's on.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it is.
It's on.
It's on. Carl, do you know anything about volume? The first glitch. It always happens.
I think your eyes is yours. That.
Exactly. That's not bad.
Yeah, we hear it, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. So, that's it.
Yeah.
No feedback. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you don't remember anything from this talk, remember that. Okay? Think of your eyes as ears. Because I'm talking to you. Right? My surrogate are those pieces out.
I still can't hear you. I have my hearing aids in.
Yeah.
Stand up.
Can anybody else not hear?
Yes, I can't hear you either.
It's hard.
It's very hard to hear you.
Okay.
I can hear it.
Think of your eyes as ears. Can you hear that?
Read my lips.
Read my. Okay. Because I truly believe that art can be an effective means of communication, right? And probably even more fluent than languages, because it's more universal. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So as you look at my pieces, right, I'm trying to have a conversation with you. I'm asking you questions, I'm reciting poetry, I'm positioned, but I'm trying to communicate. Simple. Okay? Now, there's a few things that we got to think about. when you want to do that, right? So, what I'm going to talk about is the mechanics of visual communication and why does my work look the way it does. Okay, they both go hand in hand. So everything we're going to talk about today is going to be back and forth between these two things. All right. Now, when you want to communicate visually, you got to have some goals, right? You got to have a unit of measure as far as accomplishment goes. And these are the things I'm thinking about as I'm making my work. These are the qualities I want the work to have, right? I want to catalyze interactivity or viewer participation. I'm big on that. I want people to be able to engage the work. I wanted to appeal to civilians as well as the art educated. Okay, civilians meaning everyday people. I'm a populist artist, right? I want people that don't normally think they can understand art, think they might have a chance on getting into this stuff. Okay, and most importantly, I want my work to catalyze abstract thought and complex thinking. Right. So, and I'll talk a bit how I construct my work to do that. And I want it to have cross-generational and cross-cultural appeal. So I kind of want everything. So, oops, what just happened? Okay. So the first thing I got to do if I want to do this communication thing is I got to identify my audience. I got to think about who they are, what they know. Oops, okay. Okay. I also got to think about what I want them to get. Okay, this is a critical thing. And when it comes down to it, Michael Whittington asked me when we first met, what's the one thing that I want the viewer to get? And boy, I was kind of stumped because I wanted to get a whole lot of stuff, right? But when it really came down to it, when I really thought about it, I want the viewer to get something, okay? One of the best compliments I've ever gotten from a student was she said that every time she left one of my classes, she felt she had something that she could put in her pocket and take away, right? She would put in her back pocket and take away. And I thought that was a very thoughtful comment. And I'll talk more about what that something is, or what that something can be, or what it might be. And you got to think about, ultimately, that visual art is what it looks like. No matter what you want it to be, no matter what your artist statement says, or what you try to do, it is what it looks like, right? Okay? There's no straight line between intention and effect. What you intend to do doesn't mean that people are going to get that. So you're going to have to stop and assess what you got. And if you can't live with that, you got to modify it. If that's something different than what you intended, can you accept that? Is it maybe be better than what you intended? Could be more interesting because so much comes out of the work itself as you're making it, because you learn more about the materials and the ideas that they represent. Now, what does this say? Okay, the mechanics of visual literacy, or the basic anatomy of what my book work is about. Okay, we've got back to being a populist artist. Okay, what bugs me is I hear all the time lay people believing that they're going to a museum and they're not going to be able to understand what they're going to see. They're already defeated before they come, right? They think that they can't figure it out, they're not capable of it, because we have so much adverse socialization about what art is or what art isn't in America, right? So my idea is to offer them as simple a construct as possible, so I don't overwhelm the viewer with visual stimulus, right? But carefully consider what the relationships between the things that I am offering, so that they feel like they might have a chance to put these things together. And if they contemplate the interplay between these elements, then maybe they can start thinking about arguments about what this thing might be about. Now, also, at the same time, because I want everything, right? I got to think about a simple relationship, but not be simple-minded, so that the art educated have something that they can work with as well, right? So these things have to be carefully considered. And when you have an economy of elements, each one is exaggerated in its importance. Right? So every little thing you do becomes a monumental thing. So what I've got now, I've got the book icon, right? Okay? So what do you do with books? Exactly. So already, no matter how fantastic this thing looks, right? You go like, well, maybe it's a book. I mean, everything's running through my head about what they're about, what they mean to me. So maybe I should try to work with this a little bit. Because in order for these things to have those goals that I set, I need you longer than 10 to 15 seconds that most people look at artwork in art galleries and museums. I need you to work with this and want to work with it. So, the book icon is a convention that we all understand, back to thinking about what your audience knows and how they know it, right? Okay, so now I've got objects and images. What's normally in books, right? What do you normally see in books? Words, exactly. And words represent objects and images, right? I mean, you read them and you visualize people, places, and things. But here you're presented with objects and images from the onset. So maybe, since we got a book, maybe we're supposed to try to read these things. Maybe he's saying try to put these images and objects together and see what they might suggest, right? And then they have connotations, right? Then that leads to interpretations. And then you can argue back and forth about what they might mean, and maybe even with me in absentia, right? I see a lot of that going on. I just saw a lot of that just a minute ago, right? Okay, and then lastly, we got the title, okay? The title's very important because it sort of represents or proposes the central meaning of the piece, right? And so it frames the experience, and so that you're not just thinking about anything, but you're thinking within these parameters. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, so between those three, we've got some cognitive action happening. Okay, now what I'm going to talk about here, which I don't normally talk about, which I'll normally start prodding you to start thinking about working back and forth between the constituent elements. Well, I'm going to actually talk about the genesis of these pieces, like how I got started, what was the intent initially, and then what was the actual outcome, and then be explicit about that. It's something I don't normally do, but I think we'll have fun doing that today. Okay. And then there's the magic sauce. The unintentional identifiers. Okay? Because stuff means stuff, but it also means something else. I can, I talk about doing all this, thinking about who you are, what you know, how you know it, but I can only be kind of general. I'm thinking within my sphere of knowledge. Well, they probably know this, they probably know that, they probably think about this, but no. But I have no idea who's going to walk up and engage these works, right? And so the something else is whatever your life experience dictates. That's the kind of magic sauce that I just love, right? And I really get excited when people come up to me with these well thought out analysis of what these things are about. and I'm going like, whoa, you know, I never thought of that. But now to mention it, you know, I can totally see it. It looks obvious if that's where you're coming from. Like, you know, if I show you a picture of a chicken with his head cut off, you know, if you're from the city, you might think that's some kind of animal abuse. If you grew up on a farm, we're having fried chicken tonight. So it just depends. And I've come to learn to embrace that and not think that's some sort of failure on my part that you didn't get what I intended, right? But you did get something. And that's my intent, and that's my intent. Okay. Now, if the analysis is just super whack, but you know, way out there somewhere, I got to reevaluate it. And so I'll go back and figure out how to make that piece a little more concise, a little more to the point, or something. But and also, once you start learning to get the hang of applying these relational observations, right? These comparative observations. You can do that to any artwork. You know, you can look at the constituent elements in the work in a painting or sculptures or installations and then figure out what they suggest. You know, start working through interpretation. So it really gets fun to, it becomes fun to start being an active participant in the art experience. Right? Then you want to go around and do it to something else. Okay. Okay, abstract truth. We've got two bodies of work that, now I'm going to start talking about the show itself. We've got two bodies of work out there and one suite of photographs. We've got the abstract truth, which are the sculptural pieces, with a couple of subsets, the Our Town piece. And then we've got the Demos project, which are the photographs, the portraits. Right? Okay, and so we'll go through these. And this is another subset here, the Astounding Eyes of Rita. I have a number of pieces that I'm working on that are based on music titles, on songs. Because I'm really interested in the synesthetic nature of art, how music has visual connotations, and visual art has rhythm, you know, these kinds of things. And so, and this is inspired by a song by a Tunisian oud player. His name is Anwar Brahim. It's a super mysterious piece and just a wonderful, beautiful piece. And then I had this photo of this woman that actually has these beautiful eyes, and that set me down that path, right, of mystery and who she might be, and the comparison to the puzzle with the missing piece. So, and actually she's upside down because that's how we actually see. That's reality. You're looking at me upside down right now, and but your mind has flipped it over so that you can handle it. But the image is projected upside down, and that's in a view camera film holder that gets projected like that. Okay. Yeah. little bit about the surfaces. That is black and bronze patina with a combination of rusted iron. Okay, so, and they are what they are. What looks like rusted iron is actually rusted iron. What looks like bronze is actually bronze. Okay. Now, this one, there's also, this one is a handmade book. It was born this way. Yeah, I made that from scratch. Okay. This one is a repurposed book. This is a hardback novel size. You've seen those out there, and that was on purpose. And that's another one of those familiarity things that I wanted you to feel. You just feel the size of it, and you identify with it. Okay. This one's called Garden Secrets. Used to, at one time, it was, that's how dumb I am. At one time, it was Secret Garden. And that's how dumb I am. I had no idea. I had no idea that every woman in America read that book. And they were just drawing all these references to it that I just, whoa, wait a minute, come on, hold on. and so I had to change the name. Still had the same sentiment as in Garden Secrets, but you know, that woman has a rattlesnake around her neck that's alive, and she seemed pretty comfortable with that. You know, and how many of you have have dealt with that person? You saw the rattlesnake, but you did it anyway. You know, it was a beautiful thing, but it was dangerous. Okay, so it's called Nine Kings. Now I have a real reverence and real respect for our men and women in the armed forces, because they protect our shores and allow us to make art and stuff and come and have fun like this. And especially I have a reverence for black soldiers. And people of color in general that make the ultimate sacrifice when the ideals that they're protecting may not apply to them. So that's why this is irony working here. Those are certainly kings, but they're pawns to the political system. Right? So. Now, this is a small room here, and we can keep this talk conversational. So if you guys have some questions, feel free to pop up. Detail? Dead reckoning. You know what dead reckoning is?
Yeah. Navigational approach.
Yeah.
Finding your way.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a system of navigation. And so, and this was something. That's a young man. Hey, I get a lot of questions about where I get these photographs from, right? And I like getting them in the wild, actually. And one thing that, as opposed to like the interweb, one thing that you find out when you sort of get into something new is you run into subcultures. I found this whole world of anonymous, antiquarian photo dealers and collectors. They got galleries, they have conventions, and they have shows, and it's just really great. I've got all these wonderful people that are totally into photography, and they do not want to know who took the pictures. They are enamored by the mystery of who these people might be. what narratives they can dream up. They love the mystery and constructing their own narratives. And so it was a wonderful thing. So I love, and sometimes I get them from out of people's albums. Of course, I don't take them from, I scan them. But, you know, shameless plug. You got some cool photos. But anyway, I found this one dealer, and there was a time where a bunch of like carnivals had these booths with these quarter moons, the man in the moons, that you take pictures, right? You know, like the ones where you stick your face in them.
Yeah.
Well, they had these quarter moons that you sit on them, and they had a whole collection of these. And so I bought a whole black ones. But because I'm an artist, I can put anybody I want in the construct. But anyway, we got this young man, and he's navigating his way through the treacherous waters of life. This one was ultimately inspired by Winslow Homer's Gulf Stream. Do you know that painting? Winslow Homer was an American painter, and he painted this one quite famous painting of a black man, looks like maybe an escaped slave, on a sailboat, and the mast is broken, the sails are gone, his clothes are torn off, the rudder's gone on the sailboat. There's sharks circling around the sailboat, and to top it off, there's a tornado, a water spout coming after him. So the guy was in deep, and so I just love I always wanted to do something based on that, and that's where the circling chart came from. Even though you never know that. I mean, that's the kind of things that are the genesis of the work oftentimes, where they don't end up actually presenting that way when they're done. Okay. It's called Decision in Paradise. This is another handmade book, and this is a pretty recent one. This is thinking about what's going on. You know, we got war sort of going on all the time, right? And so you want to choose the lotus blossoms, you want to choose what's on the left. You can have one or the other, pretty easy. You know, but it doesn't seem like it. Seems pretty hard for us to make that decision these days. You can have paradise or not. What do you guys think this was about? This is my Afrofuturist piece. This is called The Poet and the Scribe, or Archaeo-Ethnic Colonial Racist Eclipse. Anybody want to venture a guess? Yeah.
Colonialism.
Okay. Anybody got another one? Okay. It's an impossible thing. The genesis of this piece was, you know, those stupid National Geographic specials where they talk about how aliens built the pyramids.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And because black people couldn't figure it out, so they had aliens had to come and show it to them. And so I always wanted to do something with a spaceship, right? And I'm a Star Wars guy. And so well maybe. Okay, if you know that's the Millennium Falcon, right? Who was the original owner of the Millennium Falcon? It was Lando Calrissian. Who said that? All right. And Lando was black. So, so maybe, just maybe, since it was in the time, long time, far away, a long time ago, he just hyperspaced over the earth and dropped some knowledge on it. So black people from the future that did it. Huh? You like that? Yeah. So anyway. You're the first person to pick that up. Nice catch. Nice catch, Armando. But anyway, but it's not a secondary, but I don't expect you to get that. But thinking about, the title again, and thinking about that being representing central meaning. We got the poet and the scribe. And so we've got the scribe is literate, right? But the poet has the knowledge. And so just because you're literate doesn't mean that you got wisdom. Right? Wisdom is life lived and heartfelt. So this is a prime example of the Genesis being something completely different, but you have to evaluate what it looks like, and that's what you get there. Except for the few that know. That's a good one. Okay, here's another one. This is me being real stupid again. There's a great book by a woman named Rebecca Solnit, art historian and critic. And she wrote a book called River of Shadows. And it sort of centers around the Margaret's trials. He killed his wife and got away with it. But as it's back when women were property. And so, but as she winds that subtext through, she talks about the history of photography. Because Margaret was a famous photographer, right? He did all the figures in motion. And so, she posits that the two most important discoveries in the last 500 years was not the interwebs, but photography and the locomotive, right? Because with the locomotive, right? Because before the locomotive, time was measured by natural rhythms, right? It was measured by how fast the river flowed, how far you could walk in a day, how far your horse could walk in a day, how hard the wind blew, right? Now with the locomotive, all of a sudden we have something that can travel faster than the rotation of the earth, right? So we've got a time machine now, because now you can ride the locomotive and ride it for 2 hours, and it's the same time as when you started. Or you can ride it in the future or ride it back into the past. With photography, you can stop time, right? And so now you can stop time, put it in your pocket, get on a train, ride into the past and show them the future. You know, really mind-boggling stuff. And so that's what I was thinking about, right? So I wanted to do and plus I wanted to do a thing with train, because one of my uncles used to always say that his money was longer than train smoking. But anyway, so I get that, and then so I show it to a friend of mine. He goes, "Oh yeah, right. You got the black diaspora from the south and up to the north, because it says Chicago. The name was Sweet Home Chicago." And I go, "Oh yeah, right." I knew that. didn't even think about that. But obviously there it is. And it's quite effective at that. You know, so nobody's gonna think about Rebecca Sullivan. But I was deep in it. It's a great book. It reads like a novel. Now, one more thing. Why photography? Yeah. Well, photography is unique in all the mediums. It has evidentiary power, right? And no other medium has that. It's proof, right? At least in our society back then, thinking what the audience knows and how they know it. We view it as proof, right? And so it's like, you know, it's like the picture's worth 1,000 words. Must be the truth because there's video. You know, we were reading about Abu Ghraib a couple of years before we saw the photo. But when we saw the guy on that box with the hooked up to the batteries, it was real, right? It was real. It was a whole new ballgame. So I need you to believe that, you know, that photography has a tangential relationship to reality for sure. You know, it's made by, you know, light bouncing off subject matter, gathered through a lens, projected onto film, then actually transcribed onto the film, right? Or if it's a digital sensor, it's transposed, it's converted. And and we know light's real because we can feel it, right? So yeah, but it's not the truth. Yeah, it's not the truth. The truth involves context, right? And so I'm providing my own context. That's why I like it enough. I'm making these photos mean what what I want them to mean. Right? But I need you to believe that what you're looking at is real, right? That's a real person, right? And in photography we call that transparency, right? Where like you're looking at a picture about Susie, right? You hold in a picture, and then you hold it a little bit longer, and then it turns into a window, and it's not, you're not holding the picture anymore. That's Aunt Susie right there, the way you remember. And so I need you to buy into these people being real, or whatever I'm showing in the photo as having that connection to reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Back to this piece. The most dangerous man in America. Why is he there? What's that?
He's educated.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous because
He has wisdom. He went from shackles to knowledge.
yes, and
No more free lunch.
Gonna take over.
no, and
He's promoting education.
what's that?
Promoting education.
And yes,
It's free.
And an educated black man is dangerous
why?
to the whites. Because that's the fantasy.
Right.
Yeah, that's the idea.
If he doesn't have, he's working towards autonomy over his life, right? He's working over autonomy. He can control his life situation, right? And that is in this type of we're getting off to another thing. It's not the capitalism system that we have here. It's a plantation capitalism, right? Which works off keeping costs low as possible, and the highest cost is labor, right? And you want to keep that as low as possible so you can maximize profits, right? The best way is free, you know, against slavery. But if you can't have free, you want to keep it as low as low as possible to maximize profits, right? That's why this whole abortion thing is coming to a head right now. It's affecting women's autonomy. Yes.
Preston, is this an actual, do you know the identity of this particular person?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't know the identity of almost any of these people.
Okay. Just curious, because I think I'm a docent here at the museum, I think one of my fellow docents sort of identified that there was a black man in the South who raised money to build separate black schools.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them.
But yeah.
There's a lot of them.
We're talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the identity doesn't really matter. It's the idea of
it's the idea that he wants to promote education and create an autonomous situation for
those
his
leg
students.
irons?
What's that?
Are those supposed to be leg irons?
Those are. Yeah. And so, but he's got the key there. So anyway, that's where that's coming from. So autonomy is one of the scariest things. Okay, this is called Aquitania. Aquitania is the name of that ship, which is the sister ship of the Titanic. And that ship is sitting in New York Harbor right there with razzle-dazzle camouflage on it. And it's just come from France, and it's loaded with black soldiers coming back from France. And so, and they can see the statue from where it's sitting. And for some of them, they would get into bodily harm from wearing their uniforms home, if not killed. And so, for a lot of them, the statue was a cruel joke. That's why she doesn't have her arm. She's not holding up the flame of liberty. And she's kind of sinking. Something called "I've Got Dreams to Remember." It's another one of those music ones. This one's almost turned into my logo. This one's gotten shopped around quite a bit. I like this one a lot. There's a mugshot of a woman from King County, and she's on the inside, the birds are on the outside. So hence she's on the inside, we're on the outside. That's the problem. But there's beauty there still.
Makes me think of, I know why the caged birds.
Right.
The caged birds.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your technique for creating the forge of the metal objects? The birds and the frame and so forth?
Well, they're plaster, not actually.
Oh, they're plastic.
Right, they're cast. They're cast.
Okay.
And the stuff around it is wood, and I've got a process where I can put a patina on pretty much anything. Right, but it's actual real patina. So that's why it looks like it's bronze. That's why it looks like it actually is. So no, those are made from clay and then cast plaster. Oh, now I'm in the illusion business, so we're talking about this bronze and iron and stuff. These things could be cast solid. They made them look that way because for purposes of integration, I want them to feel. I want the pieces to present as one, right? As integrated, not tacked on, but they're actually fabricated. And I'm thinking about keeping them light as possible because you got some inside stuff here. thinking about keeping them light, because you gotta ship them around, you know, and like, that one, you know the size of it, you guys have all seen the show, right?
Yeah.
We know the size of that one. That one like 45 pounds. If that was solid iron, right? And I don't need it. I need it to look like that. So
So are these books all cast black for this?
no, they're variety of materials.
Real books?
Well, just of course they're real books. I think I know what you mean. You mean a repurposed.
Were they
book.
repurposed? Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the most dangerous man is not repurposed. He was born that way. He was made from scratch. This guy is repurposed. This is the hardback novel side.
So if I can interrupt again, does that mean that the pages are paper that you've
Yes.
somehow solidified
Yes.
or glued
Yes.
together?
Exactly. Yes.
This might be a good time for this question. Tremendous theory and textures and surface.
Right.
Does composition play a big part in what you do?
Right. Yeah. But it's really a big part. Now, but it's subtle, right? It's subtle because, like I said, it's only there's only a few elements, right? And so I have to think about what you need to know and how do I want you to put it together. And so each little millimeter or inch is critical in a relationship. So I think about them a lot and work through mock-ups and even though they look like they might just be plopped in the center, but they're certainly considered what's in the image, what the object is like, and how they relate to each other, the size relationships, so forth and so on. Yes.
So again, a process question. So I remember when you spoke to a group of us before, you said you're often working on more than one piece at the same time.
Yes.
So like if you were working on this piece, would you have the actual physical book, the grenade and the photo, and like be laying it out on the book in your studio thinking, oh, is this going to work when I cast it? Is that kind of like, okay, so we can see all these like laying around and then, oh, grenade isn't the right thing, I want to put something else there?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. So you kind of like move things around on the actual books before you cast them?
I do.
So you get the right mix?
I do.
Okay, cool.
I do. And I make drawings and collages and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I work on more than one at one time because that takes the pressure off of, because I have to make these critical decisions and they need to be economical, because the easy thing is to add another thing, right? The hard thing is leave it alone, right? And so if I have more than one going, I can divert my attention to something else. Meanwhile, I'm still thinking about all of them, right? It's still in my head. And which brings up a good point. The whole process is extremely holistic. Like, I leave out those first slides like that's some kind of checklist. Like you go through, you want to do this, and you go to that, and you do that, and you want to go to this. No, that's just to make a PowerPoint. You're thinking about all these things all the time, right? And so everything is all happening all at once, all the time.
Where do you get your books?
The repurposed ones? In Preston. I actually had a little problem with that when I first started, right? Because I love literature so much. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they're doing this. And destroying books was like, oh man. It was like, I'm the guy with the most dangerous man in the world. I really believe in education. And so then I go like, well, I'm thinking that I'm replacing it with a book. That's a real book. It's just different. It's just different. You still got to do it, and it's occupying space, and it's valuable. And then I go like, well, maybe I'll do like Anne Rice books or something, where there's like 50,000 of them at Goodwill. Everybody reads them once, and then so that kind of, and then once it's like cocaine, like once you do it once, it's just a little easier the next time. So, did that answer your question? Okay, Goodwill.
Where do you get your hand grenades?
That's where cocaine comes in.
Be careful.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay. Next. I started it, I know, I started it. Truth and Reconciliation is the name of this one. And this one actually, the genesis of this one probably, you can't tell. This is one of those ones. This was based on, what got me thinking was do you know what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was in South Africa?
Yeah.
Well, there was this guy, his name was Robert McBride. He was a member of the ANC. And he, during a war, he blew up a cafe called the Why Not Cafe in Johannesburg. It was a cafe where a lot of South African soldiers ate and hung out, right? And so it was a rich target. And so he planted this bomb, and when the bomb went off prematurely, and there were no soldiers there, and a couple of women and some kids got killed. And so it was a big controversy, and of course at the Truth and Reconciliation hearings, if you tell the truth, you'll be reconciled, and if you don't, you'll be punished by the fullest extent of the law. So, and so that's what got me started with that, is that reading about that tragic sort of, that's war. Back to my war theme and stuff, how tragic it is. He didn't pick the lowest blossoms. But now, what we have here, that's a guy, it's down in Kent. That's a guy in blackface standing there, right? And so if you think about the relationship to what we're looking at, if you've got a society where that kind of behavior is normalized, what's on the left is the inevitable outcome. It's going to blow up. Yeah. At some point. So, that's the bottom line. Therefore, truth and reconciliation. Okay. This is Janus in the morning. M-O-U-R-N. Okay. Janus is the Roman god of beginnings and endings. And it's also the god of war because of that. Right? And so, it seems like I'm thinking about war a lot, huh? Yeah, it's out there. And so now we have this brazen bit drilling through this hand. It's pretty painful. That's what war's about. It's pretty painful. Yes.
Did you also think of the stigmata there?
That's there. No, that wasn't my intent, but I recognize it certainly. And if you go there, that's okay. Yeah, that's one of those, it is what it looks like, you know, and if I wasn't okay with that, I had to change it, but I was okay with that. So, and another, you know, this one came from, I overheard a conversation on the bus about, somebody was talking about Janice. You know, and I didn't really get the whole conversation, but it stuck in my head. And I have a book of titles. There's a number of ways that I generate these, and one of them is I'm an illustrated artist, and so I love solving problems, and I write down titles, and sometimes I work from a title and try to illustrate that, and that becomes a unit of measure, and I just keep making stuff until it looks like the title, and that's kind of this one.
I love that idea that you took a snippet of overheard conversations, and, you know, it's sort of like found poetry in that sense. You know,
It is.
find a gem out there, out of context, but it works.
It is. That guy that, and that's how, you know, you sometimes you don't dream up ideas that they find you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the same thing happened to the guy that wrote a Bonnie Raitt tune, I Can't Make You Love Me. I Can't Make You Love Me. He did the same thing. He heard something out of context from people talking about, dude, you can't like make her love you. You know, and then he just went home and wrote the song. But we have to be, as artists, we have to tap into every emotion, thought, feeling that we can make visible. Because that's what we do, we make thought visible. So, now this one, I was talking to some people earlier. This one's probably my most significant one. This is the oldest piece in the show. And this one's called Times Being What They Are. Another one of those deals. I was in the Ace Hotel in Portland, and they have like this bookshelf thing there. And I was waiting to buy a cup of coffee, and there was a book with that title, Times Being What They Are. I never opened the book, but I made the piece, and it just stuck in my head. But this was the first one that demonstrated to me that I could do this, right? And that list of goals that I had at the onset, this one ticked off those boxes. And it's a very simple one, very austere, but it was in a show in New York and at the opening, there were these two white ladies, maybe 76-ish or so. They looked obviously like gallery buddies. You know, they go out and they go to shows and together because they look pretty savvy. And they were sitting there looking at it. And I walked up and asked them if they had any questions, right? And one goes like, no, we'll just stand here gazing out that window. And so I go, oh, okay. And so not only were they getting it, they were identifying with it, right? And so that demonstrated that that these things could be cross-generational, have cross-generational appeal and cross-cultural appeal as well. You know, so and that has been demonstrated more in this show quite a lot, and I've been very pleased with that. But this was the first one, and so this one I'll never let go of. It may not be the best, but it's got a soft spot for me. This one's called Hunting in Palestine. That is actually in Palestine. That picture that is on the Jordan River when it was a place on the map called Palestine. Now there's not. That's a problem. So I made that boat that looks like the one in the picture, and it's empty. That's about that. Plus, I want to make a circle. So I'm going to talk about composition. Back over here, they're being subtle, but feel like a whirlpool and it never ends.
And it's taken a perspective, with a vanishing point. I didn't pay attention to the rest of yours if you were directly above them or not.
Right,
This
right.
is perspective.
Right, exactly.
What'd you make the boat out of?
It's made out of basswood. Basswood. It's kind of like a little heavier duty balsa wood. It's light like that, but it's tough. Same with this one. This was called the Circumnavigators. Same thing as Times Being What They Are. It was a book titled this. I saw it in the library. Sounded cool. Yeah, and sometimes I see stuff like that and I instantly get a visual. Or I get this feeling that I can make it visible. Because once you do this for a while, as with anything else, you sort of get tuned up psychologically and emotionally to sort of recognize significance in language, in objects, the potential in objects and images as well. So I'm always looking around. Everywhere I go, I'm looking at things in terms of how can I use these.
Did you make that boat too?
I did. I just made my best with too. And it sat around for a year until I got I got this toy erector set that had that saw in it. And then I go, oh yeah, right, and oh yeah, and then so they're a young couple, back sort of like Dead Reckoning. They're going out to navigate the waters of life, and the beginning is the beginning of the end, but that's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. Yeah.
What's the purpose of the saw?
That's the beginning of the end. There will be a time when, they're young now. There will be a time when they won't be. And the saw will be closer to going through.
The shadow is in the piece itself, correct? Or was the shadow there because it was lit for the
Exactly. The shadow's there because it was lit.
Because it was lit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
How do you put the pictures with your various artifacts?
Well, with this one, I have the idea of the life navigation thing, right? And going on the voyage of life, and I'm interested in relationships, and modes of you sort of notice that I've got a lot of modes of transportation, boats, trains, planes, and things like that, and they represent change, time, for me, and so I just wanted a couple, and so I like the way they look, and so there we go.
I love that.
And back to the composition thing, another way of connecting them together. Yeah. So, what's that?
I was saying I love that the shadow is an accident, but it adds so much dimensionality to it, and you can see the jagged edges of the blade.
No, shadow was an accident. I've been.
But it's for the photograph for this, but it's not a piece.
Exactly. So this is photography, right? Not being the truth.
Yeah.
but it isn't this.
It's still intentional.
It's intentional. Yeah. This is as much about the photo as it is about the piece,
right?
Because that makes it.
Sure.
Do you
and so I lit that one so that out here so that you can get into a spot where that happens.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Do you intend for your pieces to photograph well? Because it seems like you definitely have like the light projecting over the objects from above in a lot of the books.
Yeah. Well, I try to. I'm not thinking about making them so that they photograph initially, but I'm trying to photograph them in an optimal way, you know, once they're done. Now, there is a type of photography that does that. People make things to be photographed, and the photograph is the end product. You know, and that's a very common sort of genre. These aren't that. These are made to be objects because that's one thing that another revelation of the book form, the idea of actuality, because now I've got embodiment involved, because these things actually are what they're supposed to be about, and so that has a power to it. So and in the form of genre that you're talking about, that's simulated, and that has its own connotation.
But you also have those fake books, if I can call them that, you know, the white prints, some of which have printing and some of which have no printing, they're just flat to the wall.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second here. How are we doing on time? Oh, Jesus. I knew it. I get, okay. Let me talk about those right now. Okay.
Yeah.
One day my mother called me and asked me what my phone number was. And that was the beginning of a wild ride of Alzheimer's. And so that's what these are about. And one of the things that people don't know unless you're involved in that world is one of the first things that goes is the ability to read and comprehend, right? And so there's 3 of these, and these 3 are they're oversized because everything is oversized with Alzheimer's. Everything is huge and ephemeral. And so this is redacted by me. I don't even know what the book is about. It's redacted by virtue of the way it looks. And as a result, the resulting text actually makes a kind of sense, a kind of a poetic sense. You can go out to the gallery and read it. It makes a poetic sense, you know, but it doesn't make the sense that it was intended to do.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens first. And one thing about Alzheimer's is you always feel like you're catching up, as being the caregiver or the family member. You're always catching up. You always feel like you're a step behind it. And they are positioned in random places in the gallery because that's how it operates. You know, it pops up and deteriorates and accelerates when you least expect it. You try to make plans, and then once you get to the point where you can execute the plans, it's far beyond that now, right? And so you have to change plans, and you plan again, and then it's far beyond that. Once you get to life doesn't let you catch up, and so then this is the second iteration where it still looks like a book, but you can't really read anything. And then finally, you got that. Try looking at that for a while. It becomes a full-on assault, especially if you're used to reading a newspaper every day or whatever. And this is testimony that I now understand that I'm not well, and it's frustrating, and everything is assaulting me. And that thing, if you look at it for very long, it just makes you scramble your brain. So, are we out of time? Carl?
Yeah, we're about half hour over.
Thank you guys for,